Hello, happy lunchtime, friends. I'm here with my pineapple hair. Got some incense burning, and we're going to do our third session of A New World is Arriving Through Us. Let It Speak, with a wondrous being. Oh, hello, Stephen. Welcome. He's a wondrous being as well. With Kathryn Sheridan, who is a trauma-informed ecotherapist and coach for people and planet. And we're just waiting for her now. Here she is. And our series is about living in harmony with our intuitive truth, or the art of doing this. And how do we do this? And if we're able to really live from this centered self space, how it not only contributes to our well-being, but also the evolution of a more equitable, sustainable society in harmony with the earth. And I think that Kathryn's got some really good insights on this, and we'll be diving into potentially, what are the barriers of the burnout culture that we face, and also if we're potentially a highly sensitive person, an introverted person with a history of trauma. So let's grab her in now, if we can. View request, okay. Accept. Breathing and smiling. We will be joined by Kathryn Sheridan.
Amazing. It works.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Well, I just gave you a little introduction. I don't know if you heard that.
I did. I was trying to push the button to join.
I just wanted to get that out before I forget, because I realised that many people watch this on the replay, and it's nice for them to see a little bit of detail about what we'll go into specifically together. And as I say, you've got a lot of gifts to offer us. So I'd like to kind of turn the mic to you, first of all, and start by asking you, what does it mean to you to live in harmony with your intuitive truth? And how does that impact our life and our world?
That's a great question. And I'm tapping on my screen here, trying to make sure that I've got it set up right. What does it mean to live in alignment with your own truths? And what does it mean to get all this extra stuff off the screen? I can't see myself, but I only need to see you. I think it's really about getting clear on what's important and what's important to you, and then, finding ways to live in alignment with that. It's not always obvious. But yeah, there's a lot of personal work behind that, and also sort of breaking through all the things that we've been told are important that actually might not be important for each of us. But I always want to say, I'm sharing my experiences, and I'm not holding myself out as having all the answers, because I see a lot of that going on in the kind of personal development and wellness culture, as if, one person's got all the answers for everybody and it'll be exactly what they need, copy paste. And I'm quite allergic to that. So yeah, I'm happy to be here with you and just to share a few of my experiences, and also, to learn from you as always.
Yeah, thanks, mate. Well, yeah, I totally agree. And I think that's why, for me, the process that I've been developing is about self-awareness, self-care, self-advocacy, and just really facilitating this space for people to get to know their values, their vision, their needs, their limits, and then how they want to take care of that, and then how they self-advocate. Because it's true, I'm not the one to tell them any of that kind of content, but I think as kind of coaches or facilitators, it's beautiful to present a kind of pathway for people to do that inner work themselves and be empowered to do that work.
Yeah, and I think the more honest we are, and the more we're able to share our own stories, then the more the right people will come to us that we might be able to help. I've always been quite open, hopefully not oversharing, but haven't held back in sharing my struggles and my story. And I do find then that the people that come to me in my coaching practice, there's something there that resonates with them. You're not a cardboard cutout. There's so many coaches, so many teachers, facilitators, whatever out there. How do you find someone to work with who might be able to help you because of their own experiences? And I think, the more open we can be on that, the better. So it's always great to talk to you and share a bit what's going on.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, I was just sharing with you that I've been through my own kind of journey, specifically the last kind of since the spring of working with a somatic therapist who's also a friend, kind of to work through a lot of kind of suffering that was coming up that I'd never really had access to. And I think for me, it's interesting as well why we get into this work, kind of why do we want to change the world? And I know for myself, I think it was because, you know, there was things in my own life that I wanted to change, but I put the focus out here, you know, and it's taken me like 30 years to get to my own suffering, you know, and how to be with that. As we know through the practice of mindfulness has been a beautiful path, but there's so many other tools that we can bring in, you know, as and when needed. And I think my friend said it takes a village to heal, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, you've got there after 30 years. For some of us, it's considerably longer, and some people may never get there. And I don't think that there's really a there anyway. I think it's all
No.
steps on the road. But yeah, it takes a village, and we live in such an isolated society. I mean, where's community? For me, that was very striking during the 2 years of more or less lockdown, that, you know, we were not so tight as a community as I would have liked to be. And I've got lots of friends that are, you know, online or living in other countries, family in other countries. And that was really isolating. And that's been a wake-up call to me to try to do more community building. It's something that I did a lot of before, but then I sort of stepped back as I went through my own healing process. And now I'm kind of tentatively, you know, dipping a toe in the water and thinking, oh, I might organize like this or that, like crafting or a workshop or get in the woods with people. And that actually feels really good.
Yeah, that is the key. I mean, that's another reason why I started this as well, because I mean, it's just so much more fun together, you know, to explore these topics. And I feel like many of us are. And how can we kind of support each other in that, you know, in the work we're doing, and to learn and grow together. And I think with you, you've always inspired me, because, I mean, I said we met in the heart of interbeing, which we did at Plum Village.
Cleaning bathrooms.
But yeah, we were cleaning the toilets together, you know, but that really is the heart of interbeing, because it's
I love it.
coming in, coming out. Yeah. And I was impressed by you then, because you were very open and enthusiastic about life and the practice and just getting your hands dirty. Because, not everyone wants to clean toilets mindfully. But I saw that you were open to it, and I've kind of watched your own, you know, your journey. And I feel like you put a lot of heart into your projects. And I wondered if you could tell us a bit about the projects and the work that you do.
Yeah, thank you. Oh, that's really nice that you say that. And I like cleaning toilets also because there's a clear start point and an end point, and you can see progress. And I think so many things in life, it's hard to see like, oh, this is done now, or this is clean now. And there is something about that, like community work on a Buddhist retreat, where, you know, if you're lucky to get that kind of task, there's an end point and it's finished, and you can feel good about something being done. My work, you asked, I have a background in sustainability. So initially environmental journalism, which is what brought me to Brussels. So I've been living in Belgium for over 20 years. But I grew up in the UK. You and I are from the same hometown, which was a brilliant discovery as we were cleaning. Is that your cough face? That's brilliant. I've never seen that before. That's brilliant.
You want to do that with me?
No. But I like it. Okay. So yeah, sustainability background professionally, and then I was running like a consultancy that I had set up. I set it up in 2008, and I had a team of like 8-9 people and an office, and it was, you know, it was all really going great on the outside, but on the inside, I was really just exhausted. I was traveling all the time. You know, I was literally flying everywhere, spending time going to conferences, speaking at conferences. You know, I was always on the road. I was never home. And I got to like 40 and just, cliched 40, but it really just wasn't helping me anymore. And I was just getting more and more exhausted and was not recovering from jet lag. I wasn't sleeping. You know, it was a mess. So I decided to take some time out from that business, and I took a sabbatical, and that was 2017. Right. And the business was going great. And so I thought like, wow, this is such a luxury, like to be able to take time out from my own business, you know, But I came back after a year because it's quite difficult to keep a thing running without the founder. But then once I came back, I just started to scale back. And it took me a few years to be able to like successfully scale it back. And that probably sounds weird to many people's ears, but successfully scaling back is what I wanted to do, not to keep growing and keep scaling, because for me, you don't always need to have things bigger. You know, it's like I'd done what I wanted to do. I just didn't feel the need to be growing anymore. So I've scaled it right back, and I still do some consulting work, but only as I'm on my own in that business now, it's only things where I really feel like I can have an impact. And it's just because I've been doing it for so long, I think it'd be a shame to completely stop, because sometimes I think it's too much to try to juggle everything. That's also like a modern day problem. But yeah, I don't want to completely stop doing that just because I know that I can help to change things. But then the other part of my life and my work is my coaching practice. So I think you mentioned at the beginning, I'm a trauma-informed coach, also ecotherapist, which means I work with people outside about our connection to nature, and not just how can nature be beneficial to us, but how can we have a reciprocal relationship, a two-way relationship with, you know, the natural world around us. So I do forest bathing, I do nature art, I do coaching sessions in nature with people. That's really, really awesome. And just starting to do now like a bit more of the team buildings and stuff as well, taking people outside into a natural space.
Nice.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing.
It's amazing. It's very holistic. You know, we often use this word with our, again, the practice of mindfulness, to see that, yes, we are nature as well. And so part of serving nature is to see that we're a part of her, and not to try and sort of save her, but to just enjoy, you know, enjoy being part of nature and kind of have this reciprocal relationship. And I think that can help as well with this kind of, I know for myself, this kind of saving complex, you know, and to feel actually we are one kind of body. So it's so important that I take care of myself while I'm in service to the other. And also, like you say, nature can give us so much as well, to inspire us, to renew us, to kind of heal us along the path. I was hugging a tree yesterday for a very long time.
Nice. And doing your own nature connection practices. You don't need a guide.
I do. Yeah. Well,
that's great.
No,
yeah. I mean, that is so important that we're part of it. And I think that so much of, you know, society's challenges have come when we started to see ourselves as separate. And that is a big teaching that I got from the mindfulness practice, which has really, really helped me. I mean, I think I actually started on this path and started turning things around in my life when I really came into the practice. And so that's only been like the last, since I was like around 40, so the last six years or so. I first went to Plum Village in 2018, I think. But yeah, seeing ourselves as separate from each other, but we're also like so disconnected from ourselves. And what you said about, you know, wanting to save things, like wanting to save the planet. You know, the planet is getting destroyed and getting depleted, but the planet will still be here when the humans can't live here anymore. So I always say to people, like, how uncomfortable are you willing to get? You know, because that's basically, with climate change, that is basically what's happening. Like, you know, there's a climate emergency and it's getting more and more uncomfortable for humans to live on the planet. And unfortunately, it's always going to be the least, you know, the least privileged, the least favoured that are struggling the most. And that's, you know, just so typical in our society. So yeah, the saving things, that's part of it. But I also think you touched on that before, but we are not comfortable with ourselves at a certain point. So you have a lot of young, idealistic activists who are then going out to prove and to fight. And it's not about connection or respect or love of the planet and of people. It's really a fight. And I mean, I was in that world, and I see that around me, and I've you know, supported community in that space for a long, long time. And you know, what are we trying to prove? What are we trying to hide or cover up by putting all the focus on the out there and the politicians are the enemy and business is the enemy. And yeah, I can see all of that, but I can also see that, we can live differently. But that is a big cultural shift that people are not really wanting to even hear about. Like if you talk about how I try to do it now is like really just living much more slowly, much more slow and steady kind of life, doing the things that I want to do that give me energy, that I find fun, and then having peaks of activity, whether it's, going to speak at a conference or going to facilitate a meeting or, having a busier day of coaching or whatever, but that there's a slow and steady base supporting those peaks.
Nice. Yeah, that really resonates, actually. That's something that I've been doing in the last kind of year. But again, I've found it's all about balance, isn't it? And it's different for all of us, which is why this kind of self-awareness is so important, because we have to kind of listen to ourselves and then curate our lives around that if we have the privilege to. But for me, I'm interested in going in that direction. And I found actually I've been too understimulated this year, because I live in the middle of nowhere basically, and that's why I've had a great time with the trees and the river, and I live with some beautiful beings, including a cat and a dog, in this retreat centre, and it's been an incredible year of learning. And we have facilitated a retreat once a month kind of during the kind of on season. But I actually found, wow, I'm an extreme person. I used to be so busy, and I was in a band performing kind of, in the evening in London, and then in the courtroom in the day with social justice. And I was just completely cream crackered after kind of a decade of that. Yeah. And we'll maybe move on to this burnout culture and how hard it is to go against that in the world and within ourselves, this kind of agitation of doing and, yes, exactly, not being able to just be at peace with who we are and what we can offer and feel that's enough, that's enough. But then the other extreme this year, I found, I've not done enough actually to, I haven't met enough people. And I realized that also takes me out of this well-being, harmonious space. And I felt, definitely experience a kind of depression, anxiety of like just loneliness, and so I think it's really is about, like you say, we haven't got the answers, but it's just tuning in and then trying different things and finding the rhythm. And I think what you say, the slow and steady, is lovely, and then these peaks of activity. But I think moving on to this, why is it so hard to live against this grain, and how do you feel about saying no? Because I know for many of us it's still hard, to go against the grain and to say no to these kind of incoming requests or expectations. So if you could speak on that.
I can try to, certainly. I think it's really countercultural even still today to slow down, to step back, to not always be about, the latest smartphone and all of these things that keep driving the economy. And I mean, in my sustainability work, I did a lot of communications, and so I can really look at that clearly and see that it is just about telling people that they're not enough. Like the mainstream of advertising, which is not where I was working, but the whole system is just rigged to say that you're not enough, you're not, pretty enough, thin enough, rich enough, whatever enough, unless you sign up. And even this wellness industry, and it really is an industry, right? There's a guru, or there's a tea, or there's a retreat. There's always going to be something that you have to aspire to, and that's then something that we're going after and we're grabbing onto to try to make ourselves feel better, and just to cover up the fact that basically we can feel that there's a hole in us, that there's a need for something more. And I can really relate to what you said about having been understimulated, and I've experienced that in the last couple of years as well. But I find it really, really challenging actually, because I get overstimulated really, really easily. So for me, it's a really fine balance. And I think with highly sensitive people and more introverted people, and anybody who's sort of trying to work through what's happened to them in their lives, it's like it can be really overwhelming then to go out into the world, but then you can be at home feeling lonely and depleted and a little depressed. because you actually need that kind of stimulation. And that's why I think it's more important than ever, I think, that we need to find our people. And I know that I speak from a place of privilege where I can afford to stay at home and not have to go out and like go on the front lines in any way. So I'm very, very aware of that and grateful for that. But yeah, how do we say no to things? Like, if we have a choice, you know, what is enough? How much do I need to survive? And more than survive, you know, how much do I need to live my life? What are the elements in my life that are important to me? And they don't all cost money, you know, or they don't all cost a lot of money. So I think, you know, being able to go against the grain is kind of countercultural. It's like the rest revolution. And just the more of us that do it and talk about it, the more, you know, we can make it more sort of a normalized thing. But at the same time, recognizing that there's that window, there's that band of just enough of like being able to be stimulated and do things, but then being able to retreat like safely, without worrying that people think, oh, you know, that you're not being social or something. But like finding really your own place in the world and how you want to engage and how you're able to engage with other people. And also knowing that changes at different times in our lives, because when we are dealing with stuff and we are processing things, you know, we often find that we're less able to engage. But then when we've done some healing and we feel that we're a few steps further along the path, then it's easier to like engage again. And that's what I really liked about, you know, the engaged Buddhism or the applied Buddhism, that for me, it's about how can I resource myself through mindfulness, through nature, through doing my own personal work, so that when I do go and show up, I'm going to be more effective. So when I have those peaks of activity, I can actually have some influence and make some change.
That's it. That's a really lovely way of seeing it and practicing it. Yeah. Yes. I'm just gonna breathe with that.
Yeah.
You've dropped lots of wisdom bombs here. I'm really enjoying just exploring this topic with different people, because there's so many different angles that we all come at it with.
Yeah, absolutely. We're all coming from different places. I mean, saying no is not easy.
Exactly. This is the thing. This is why I've ended up working on it, because I think, for me, I'm a practitioner in the tradition of Thich Nhat Hanh, and you know, it's widely, I speak about it often, and I'm kind of going to be sharing some mindfulness courses actually soon with Plunder UK, which is brilliant. But the reason that I've done this extra work with Wondrous Sound is, firstly, like you with your sustainability consultancy, is I love music and sound, you know, so I need an outlet for myself. And I can also see how sound is such an accessible way into meditation. So, you know, mindfulness of the breath and the body is such a stable, you know, practice to take us through the day. But some people, that's difficult to enter even. So I think it's wonderful to offer different kind of Dharma doors. And then also I see that even within these traditions, we have these ideals of compassion and service. And I think for many of us, including me, it can get a bit confusing if, am I meant to sacrifice, you know, my own needs to offer this? And it's really just kind of hammering home the point, maybe too much, but actually, no, it really is about centering the self and your unique gifts and talents as well, and offering those and being like at peace and having permission to say no, even in our do-gooding, even in our communities. And actually how these kind of systems of oppression and exploitation do play out in those spaces too, because they're in us, you know. And like you say, we're constantly being told, you know, you're not enough, you've got to do more. And I think it just is in us. So I think I'm really excited to both share the practice and these kind of extra tools for people who, you know, might need that support to kind of action their ideas in the world and say no to things that really don't serve who they actually are. Yeah.
And it's brilliant that you've put a framework around that, because so much of what we do is like basically beating ourselves up. Like, oh, I don't meditate enough. Oh, I don't go in nature enough. Oh, I don't sit long enough on my cushion. Oh, I don't even sit on a cushion because frankly it hurts, you know, like, but instead of saying like, oh, that's okay. I don't sit actually on a cushion that much. I sit in a chair or I lay down or whatever I do is fine. Like, and just being okay with that. and not listening to this like constant sense of, oh, you're not doing it right. And this fear, I feel like in myself, it comes up sometimes, you know, if I'm going to speak to somebody, I notice that it's there. It's like this feeling of, oh, did I do something wrong? Or maybe they're going to think I did something wrong and get like caught out for that. And that comes from childhood. That stuff is deeply ingrained. We can be aware of it. We can work on it. But like that stuff is there and it's real. And just being like, okay, here we go again. Didn't do anything wrong, did a good job. And if something comes up, I will deal with it. But like, we're so critical on ourselves. I think like we're the hardest judge of ourselves, actually.
We are, yeah. As you're speaking, I just had a flashback. I've been pot washing my whole life as well. I'm an international pot washer. Because again, I've always found like all of my interests were kind of, you know, they haven't been profit making, if you see what I mean. So I was a musician. Then I remember I studied law with the idea to become a social justice lawyer. And then just as I graduated, the Tories came in and like pulled all the funding from legal aid. So it's like, oh no, you know, you can't. But I remember at that moment thinking, no, well, this is what I want to do. So I just got a job pot washing in a beautiful cake shop actually, and started volunteering at like the local law centre and worked my way up into the advocacy and advice team, and then brought my knowledge of the law to the front line. And you know, but I can see that a lot of the things, that we really are passionate about, there isn't always that support and the resources there. And so I think, again, another element is like, how do we acknowledge that and resource ourselves? I mean, actually, just on this point, although we've only got 3 minutes left, it's kind of, someone that I follow now is someone called Kelly Dials, and she's a feminist marketing consultant. And I love this woman because she says,
she's brilliant.
Yeah, she says you can make money and justice at the same time. And in fact, we must, you know, as kind of women and, you know, offering services in the world. And that, just to touch on that point as well, actually, because I think that another part of this burnout culture and trying to live with integrity and serve society, for me, I'm waking up to the fact that, yes, we want accessibility strategies to make sure well-being and these practices are accessible. But we also have to look after ourselves, and we can make money and justice at the same time. And if we don't, we're kind of just another victim, another self-sacrificing kind of model that isn't sustainable.
Definitely. And I see a lot of people that are working in something where they're helping, they're doing good, whether it's like my friends that are forest bathing guides or other people that are doing something, you know, around environment, social justice. And there's a kind of a guilt that says, oh, I'm doing something, firstly, I'm doing something I like, and I'm doing something that helps. Therefore, I shouldn't get paid for it. And I completely like try to support people around that, because it's like, you have value, and your time and your energy and your efforts and your care that you put into this, there is a value there. And so absolutely you should be paid for it, and you should be able to ask for it. And I think being able to ask for what we need is another skill that links in with the work that you're doing around, you know, you can say no. We need to be able to ask for what we need. And I think it's even part of your framework, isn't it, to be able to have those conversations with people.
Yes, it is. I mean, that's to me what self-advocacy is. It's exactly what are our needs and our limits, you know. And then the next step is about self-expression. So then really getting in touch with the calling of our heart, you know, well, not what society tells you you should do and not how you should do it, but who are you and what gifts do you have? Because like Ty says, we're all flowers in the garden of humanity. And then it's kind of, how do we offer that and honor our needs and limits and then work together? It's all about community and collaboration, actually. But what I've seen is, until we're really centered in ourselves and we're confident to say no and to ask for what we need and to express, you know, what's inside, then how can we work collaboratively with others in a positive way?
Yeah, and understanding that you can be centered now, but then in half an hour you might not be. I might have a good week of feeling like, oh, I'm absolutely, like, everything's going in the way that I need it to, and the next week I'll be completely overwhelmed and useless. And so understanding as well that that is part of it. We're going to bring your work and your workshops to my space in Brussels, so we'll definitely keep people informed about that next year, probably early next year, because I really look forward to having you here and like having more this conversation and inviting people from my community in to take part.
Thanks, mate. Yeah, 2023, you can say no at People, Planet, Place in Brussels.
Awesome.
Yes. And Flo, thanks for joining us, Flo, and our other friends. What she's saying, finding our changing needs and then working in community and collaboration. Exactly. Yes, it's all present moment, isn't it? It's not, there's no end. It's just a path of being in touch with ourselves and others and flowing in that truth.
Yeah, and being able to really respect what we need in terms of how much we're able to do and how much, depending on how we are. And I mentioned before, highly sensitive, introverted, and people who are processing, trauma history. That there are limits to what we can do. So also, not feeling that it's not enough, because we do often have that sense of, oh, I want to do more. Well, maybe I do want to do more, but this is what I can do right now. That's
it. And it really is enough. And thank you to everybody who's giving their hearts in every way that they are. And it's 1 minute past 1.
All right.
So like the time police says, we'll be calling it in. But how can people get in touch with you and kind of stay connected to your wondrous work, my friend?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, my Instagram, my website's KathrynSheridan.com. And I send a weekly email out on Monday mornings. And you can sign up for that on my website, KathrynSheridan.com. And just love to keep in touch with people.
Nice. Okay, well, I'm going to let you go now.
Thank you so much.
Lots and lots of love, and hope to see you very soon.
Thanks very much, Rachel. Take care.
Thanks, mate. Bye. Bye, everyone.